Okay, so here's something that's been on my mind. The semiconductor industry is absolutely on fire, right? We're talking record-breaking sales, and yet the whole system feels like it could snap at any second, and prices for everything from cars to graphics cards are just through the roof. So what's the deal? That's the paradox we're going to unpack right now.
So let's just try to get a sense of the scale we're dealing with here. That number you're looking at, that's the predicted sales for the global chip industry in 2025. It's an all-time high, completely smashing previous records. It really points to this massive, worldwide surge in demand.
And believe me, they are not stopping there. The industry has its sights set on $1 trillion in sales every single year by 2030, and honestly, they're on track to hit it. So what on earth is fueling this absolutely incredible growth? Well, the answer really comes down to two letters: AI. The engine behind this whole explosion is the just insatiable demand for these super specialized high-performance chips that make generative AI possible. This isn't just a little trend, it's a full-blown 21st century gold rush. I mean, this quote from AMD's CEO Lisa Su really puts it all into perspective. Just let that sink in. The market for just AI chips could soon be bigger than the entire chip industry was just a couple of years ago. The financial stakes here are just staggering.
And this chart right here really shows the impact. In 2024, generative AI chips accounted for a massive 20% of the industry's total revenue. That is 1/5 of all the money made coming from a single, pretty new category. But this is where the paradox really starts to kick in.
Okay, now look at this. This is the wild part. Even though they make up 20% of the revenue, those same AI chips are built on less than 0.2% of the actual physical silicon wafers. You know, those raw circular slices that all chips start out as. So they're unbelievably valuable, but physically they're incredibly rare. And that puts this immense pressure on a supply chain that's already stretched to its limit.
So yeah, that massive boom we were just talking about, it is all built on this incredibly precarious foundation. It's like the entire industry is walking a tightrope, and one tiny slip, one little wobble, can have these huge global consequences. And the terrifying part? The rope is always shaking.
And those slips, they happen all the time. A critical factory fire here, another one just a few months later over there, a major earthquake threatening brand new facilities in Japan. I mean, the supply chain is constantly just one disaster away from grinding to a complete halt.
And you know, this isn't just a string of bad luck. It's a deep structural vulnerability. When you have the vast majority of the world's most advanced chips being made in just two places, any regional instability, whether it's a natural disaster or, political tension, basically holds the entire global supply hostage. But the fragility isn't just about factories and earthquakes. The bottlenecks are also human and, political, which adds these whole new layers of complexity to an already super strained system.
Just think about this number for a second. 1 million. That's how many new, skilled workers the semiconductor industry needs to find by 2030 just to keep pace. It is a colossal number, and right now, they are seriously struggling to find them.
So what's causing this talent crisis? Well, it's kind of a perfect storm. You've got an existing workforce that's aging out, and there just aren't enough new engineers with the highly specific skills to replace them. This is already causing big delays in opening new factories, especially in places like the US and Europe, where these reshoring efforts are demanding local hires that, they just don't exist in the numbers needed.
And then on top of all that, you have this global geopolitical chess match going on. The US is using what they call a small yard, high fence strategy. Basically, they're building a very high wall around their most advanced chips and blocking their export. In response, China is retaliating by restricting key raw materials. You throw in the threat of new tariffs and the fact that AI is now being treated as a national security issue, and you've got a recipe for constant, unpredictable disruption. Okay, so we've got a massive demand boom, a super fragile supply chain, a talent shortage, and political turmoil. Now let's connect all these huge, high-level pressures to something we can all feel, the price tag on the tech we buy.
Because at the end of the day, this isn't just some abstract industry problem. All of these things, they come together and they have a very direct and very expensive impact on you, the consumer.
And, I think this comment from a Reddit user just perfectly captures the mood right now. We've all been dealing with shortages and price hikes for years, from the pandemic to the crypto boom and now the AI boom. It's just this feeling of exhaustion with supply chains that can't seem to catch a break.
And here is a perfect, almost unbelievable example of just how warped things have gotten. When a single component, a simple kit of memory, costs more than an entire, incredibly complex gaming console, you know the market has just gone completely sideways. This is the reality of the semiconductor paradox for us.
So you might be asking, well, why don't manufacturers just build more factories and fix this? And the answer is, they're facing this massive dilemma. On one hand, yeah, they could invest billions to try and capture this historic demand. But on the other hand, what if the AI boom is a bubble? If that bubble pops, they'd be left with billions of dollars in useless factories and a market totally flooded with chips nobody wants.
And like this user points out, this isn't just some theoretical fear for them. They have been burned by this exact scenario before, most recently during the tech boom in the pandemic. They ramped up production, demand suddenly collapsed, and they were left holding the bag. They are really determined not to let that happen a third time.
So, all of this brings us to the trillion-dollar question that the entire industry and really the whole global economy is facing right now. Is this a sustainable boom, or is it a fragile bubble?
And that, right there, is the core conflict. It's the central tension of this whole story. You've got tech giants, governments, investors, all going all in, betting trillions on this AI-powered future. But the very companies that build the physical foundation for that future, they're playing it safe. They're hedging their bets against a crash. And that fundamental disconnect between the hype and the hardware is what's creating the squeeze that we all feel.
So, to just recap it all, we have the unstoppable force of AI demand creating this modern-day gold rush. But it's running up against the immovable object of a supply chain that's held back by fragility, by lack of people, and by fear. And all of us, the consumers, we're just caught in the middle, paying the price for this massive, high-stakes gamble.
Which leaves us with that final trillion-dollar question. Is this AI boom actually building the future, or is it just blowing a massive bubble, one that's built on a dangerous paradox of scarcity and hype? The answer isn't just going to define an industry. It's probably going to shape the next decade of all of our lives.